the language of touch Lyra. Chen adjusted her diplomatic uniform as the azure doors of the Moralian High Council chamber slid open with a whisper. The air smelled of something like cinnamon and ozone, alien yet oddly comforting. 6 months into her assignment as Earth's ambassador to Moralia, she still found herself awestruck by the crystalline architecture that seemed to both absorb and reflect the light of twin suns. "Ambassador Chen," announced the steward, a tall Moralian with skin that shimmered between deep purple and midnight blue. "His Highness Prince Kievan will receive you now." Lyra nodded, gathering her composure. This meeting wasn't scheduled, an unusual breach of Moralian protocol. Something important must have happened. Prince Kievan stood by a vast window overlooking the capital city of Luminaris. Unlike other Moralians whose expressions remained perpetually serene, the prince's features seemed troubled. His iridescent eyes narrowed slightly. "Ambassador," he said, turning. His voice carried the musical quality of all Moralians, but with an edge Lyra hadn't heard before. "I require your expertise on a matter of cultural significance." Lyra bowed slightly. "I'm at your service, Your Highness." "Yesterday I observed something disturbing in the Earth Quarter." He gestured to a holographic display that materialized between them. "This." The recording showed 2 humans, researchers from Earth's Botanical Division, embracing after what appeared to be a successful experiment. One kissed the other's cheek in celebration. "Oh," Lyra said, suddenly understanding. In 6 months of diplomatic relations, she'd forgotten that Moralians never touched each other except in the most formal of circumstances. "That's simply an expression of joy and affection, Your Highness." "Affection?" He pronounced the word as if testing an unfamiliar food. "We've studied your species extensively, Ambassador Chen. Your biological systems are remarkably similar to ours despite our external differences. Yet you engage in this touching, pressing your mouth parts against each other. It serves no evolutionary purpose we can discern." Lyra suppressed a smile. "Not everything we do serves an evolutionary purpose, Your Highness. Sometimes we touch because it feels good, because it connects us." "Connects?" He looked genuinely confused. "Physically expressing what we feel inside," she explained. "It's fundamental to human relationships." Prince Kievan stepped closer, unusually close by Moralian standards. "Show me." Lyra's breath caught. I can't simply demonstrate, Your Highness. These gestures have meaning. Context. I am not requesting, Ambassador Chen." His tone softened unexpectedly. "I am asking. There is much about humans I do not understand but wish to." Something in his voice made Lyra reconsider. Diplomatic relations with Moralia were still fragile. Their technology could help Earth recover from centuries of environmental damage. Perhaps this cultural exchange was necessary. "I can teach you about human connection," she said carefully, "but not through demonstration alone. You would need to understand the emotions behind the gestures." Kievan's expression shifted subtly. For a Moralian, it was equivalent to a dramatic response. Emotions are primitive responses that our society evolved beyond generations ago. "With respect, Your Highness," Lyra said, finding courage she didn't know she possessed. "If that were true, you wouldn't be asking about this." The prince was silent for a long moment. The light from the twin suns cast his angular features in golden shadow. "Perhaps you are correct, Ambassador Chen. Perhaps there are gaps in my understanding." He turned back to the window. "Return tomorrow. We will begin these lessons." As Lyra bowed and turned to leave, she caught his reflection in the crystal wall, watching her with an intensity that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. The door whispered closed behind her. Outside, she released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Teaching a Moralian prince about human affection was definitely not in her diplomatic handbook. Lessons in feeling. The Moralian learning chamber glowed with soft blue light as Lyra arranged several Earth artifacts on the crystal table. Prince Kievan observed her movements with undisguised curiosity. His tall frame unusually relaxed as he sat across from her. "These are photographs," Lyra explained, spreading the printed images. "We preserve moments of connection this way." Kievan leaned forward, examining a photo of an elderly couple holding hands. "Your species values physical preservation of memories." "Interesting." "We value the emotions these memories evoke," Lyra corrected gently. "This couple has been together for 60 years. Their touch represents decades of shared experiences. But the biological purpose," Kievan began. There doesn't always need to be one, Lyra interrupted, then caught herself. Forgive me, Your Highness. No, he said, surprising her. Continue. These lessons require honesty, not formality. Lyra nodded, finding her rhythm. Humans touch to communicate without words. A hand on a shoulder shows support. A hug can express joy, comfort, or farewell. And the pressing of lips, kissing you call it. That's more intimate, Lyra said, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. It indicates deeper affection, sometimes desire. Kivan's iridescent skin rippled slightly, a Moralian sign of intense interest. We have no equivalent. The closest might be resonance sharing. What's that? Lyra asked. Kivan stood, motioning for her to follow. He led her to an alcove where a luminous crystal hovered in midair. May I? He asked, gesturing toward her hand. Heart quickening, Lyra nodded. His fingers brushed hers, the first time a Moralian had willingly touched her. His skin was warmer than she expected, with a subtle vibration that tingled against her palm. He guided their hands to the crystal. The moment they touched it together, the room filled with harmonic tones that seemed to vibrate through Lyra's very bones. Color swirled around them, not just seen but somehow felt. This is resonance sharing, Kivan explained, his voice hushed. Our frequencies align temporarily. The sensation was extraordinary, as if her consciousness expanded, brushing against his. Not mind reading, but something more primal. She sensed his curiosity, his carefully controlled fascination with her. When they withdrew their hands, Lyra felt strangely bereft. That was beautiful, she whispered. Yes, Kivan said, studying her face. Perhaps our species are not so different in our needs, only in how we express them. Over the following weeks, their lessons continued. Lyra taught Kivan about human expressions of connection, while he revealed more about Moralian customs. She learned that their apparent emotional detachment was actually a highly developed system of subtle cues. The slight shifts in skin luminescence, minute vocal modulations, even the positioning of their fingers when speaking. One evening, as twin moons rose over the crystal spires of Luminaris, they sat in the palace gardens reviewing earth poetry. I carry your heart with me, Kivan read from Lyra's tablet, his musical voice giving the human words new beauty. I carry it in my heart, E. Cummings, Lyra said. One of our most beloved poets. The metaphor is affecting, Kivan admitted, carrying another's heart. Impossible physically, yet I understand the sentiment. He paused, setting down the tablet. May I try something, Lyra? Her name on his lips, not her title, sent an unexpected thrill through her. Of course. He moved closer on the crystal bench. Slowly, telegraphing his movements, he raised his hand toward her face. His fingers hovered near her cheek, not quite touching. In ancient Moralian tradition, he said softly, this gesture was once used between those who shared deep connection, before we became so civilized. His fingertips brushed her cheek with exquisite gentleness. Where they touched, a warm glow spread beneath her skin, some property of Moralian biology she hadn't known about. Kivan, she whispered, instinctively leaning into his touch. The garden illuminated suddenly as Council Member Thalaris appeared at the entrance, flanked by guards. Kivan withdrew his hand immediately. Your Highness, Thalaris said, her tone formal but her skin pulsing with disapproving patterns. The High Council requests your immediate presence. There are concerns about your frequent private meetings with the human ambassador. Kivan stood, his posture returning to royal rigidity. Ambassador Chen is fulfilling her diplomatic duties by educating me on human customs. Of course, Your Highness, Thalaris replied, her gaze flicking dismissively toward Lyra. However, there are reports of inappropriate cultural exchange. As Kivan departed with the council member, he cast one last glance at Lyra. In that moment, she saw something in his eyes that transcended species, longing, and perhaps a touch of fear. She touched her cheek where his fingers had been, wondering what price they might both pay for these lessons in feeling. The price of proximity. The Moralian council chamber gleamed with harsh light as Lyra stood before the semicircle of stern faces. After 3 days of isolation in her diplomatic quarters, she'd been summoned without explanation. Ambassador Chen, intoned Elder Vexar, the oldest council member, you have been engaging in unsanctioned cultural exchanges with Crown Prince Kivan. Lyra kept her expression neutral. I've been fulfilling my diplomatic mission to foster understanding between our worlds. By teaching primitive physical customs? Council member Thalaris asked, her skin pulsing with patterns Lyra now recognized as contempt. By encouraging the heir to our society to abandon centuries of Moralian advancement? With respect, Lyra replied carefully. Learning about differences doesn't necessitate abandoning one's own culture. The chamber doors opened, and Prince Kivin entered. His royal garments were more formal than usual, his bearing rigid. He took his place at the council table without acknowledging Lyra. Prince Kivin, Elder Vexar said, explain these private lessons you've requested of the human ambassador. Kivin's voice was measured, emotionless. As future ruler, I must understand all species under our protection. Humans express themselves differently. This knowledge serves Morelia's interests. And the incident in the garden? Thalaris pressed. Was that also serving Moralian interests? Lyra felt heat rise to her face as murmurs rippled through the council. A momentary cultural experiment, Kivin stated flatly. Nothing more. His dismissal stung more than Lyra expected. Had she misinterpreted everything between them? Elder Vexar's eyes narrowed. The council has deliberated on this matter. Ambassador Chen's continued presence represents a disruptive influence. We recommend terminating the Earth diplomatic mission. Lyra's heart sank. Failure of this mission would set Earth-Moralia relations back years, possibly forever. That would be premature, Kivin said, his tone suddenly sharp. Ambassador Chen has committed no violation of our agreements. Her removal would be seen as hostile by Earth authorities. Then perhaps, Thalaris suggested with silky menace, the ambassador requires closer supervision, and you, Prince Kivin, would benefit from immersion in the ancestral protocols to remind you of your duties. Lyra recognized the threat. The ancestral protocols were a form of Moralian mental conditioning that reinforced traditional values and suppressed aberrant emotions. I will comply with whatever the council deems necessary, Kivin said, his eyes finally meeting Lyra's. Though his face remained impassive, she saw something flicker in those iridescent depths, a silent apology. Later, confined to her quarters under the guise of protective custody, Lyra paced the crystal floors. The communication systems had been restricted. She couldn't even contact Earth to report what was happening. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Maris, Kivin's personal attendant. Ambassador, she whispered, glancing nervously down the corridor. Prince Kivin asked me to deliver this. She pressed a small crystal into Lyra's palm. As soon as their skin touched, the crystal activated, projecting a tiny hologram visible only to Lyra. Kivin's face appeared, his voice barely audible. Lyra, the council fears what they don't understand. They begin my protocol immersion tomorrow. Meet me tonight at the Ancestral Grove. The resonance crystal will guide you past the guards. The message dissolved as Maris withdrew her hand. He risks everything by contacting you, the attendant said. Whatever is between you, it has changed him. After Maris left, Lyra clutched the crystal, weighing her options. Going to Kivin meant risking her mission, her career, possibly even Earth-Moralia relations. Not going meant losing something she hadn't realized she'd found, a connection that transcended worlds. As twilight fell over Luminaris, she slipped the crystal into her palm and made her choice. Breaking tradition. The ancestral grove pulsed with bioluminescence as Lyra crept between massive crystal trees. The resonance crystal in her palm hummed softly, emitting a frequency that rendered her nearly invisible to the Moralian guard sensors. Ancient trees towered overhead, their crystalline trunks reflecting starlight and hypnotic patterns. Unlike the geometric perfection of Luminaris, the grove felt wild, primal, a reminder of what Moralia had been before emotion was deemed primitive. She found Kivin beside a pool of luminous liquid. He wore simple robes rather than his royal attire, making him look younger, more vulnerable. You came, he said, relief evident in his voice. I wasn't certain you would. Neither was I, Lyra admitted. This could end everything, the diplomatic mission, Earth-Moralia relations, or it could begin something new. He extended his hand, palm up. There's something I must show you before they begin the protocols tomorrow. Hesitantly, she placed her hand in his. The now familiar warmth spread through her fingers, up her arm. "The council believes I've been corrupted by human influence," he said as they walked deeper into the grove. "They don't understand that you've awakened something that was always within me, within all Moralians." They approached. A massive crystal formation unlike any Lyra had seen in the city. Rough, unpolished, it jutted from the ground like a monument. "Our ancestors called this the heart of Moralia," Kevin explained. "Before the Great Rationalization, when we decided emotions were inefficient and dangerous." He placed his palm against the crystal, inviting her to do the same. When their hands touched the surface together, the entire formation blazed with color. Images flooded Lyra's mind. Moralians from centuries past dancing, embracing, their skin flashing with vibrant patterns of joy, sorrow, love. "This is our true history," Kevin whispered. "Not the sanitized version taught in our education chambers." The images shifted to show the gradual transformation of Moralian society, the suppression of touch, the development of technologies to replace emotional connection, the genetic modifications that diminish their capacity for feeling. The ancestral protocols, Lyra realized. They're not just mental conditioning. They're a neurological reset, Kevin confirmed. "Tomorrow they'll erase everything I've learned with you, every feeling I've rediscovered." Lyra withdrew her hand from the crystal, turning to face him. "Why show me this?" "Because someone needs to remember." His iridescent eyes held hers. "Because what's growing between us matters more than I understood." In the glow of the ancient crystal, Kevin slowly raised his hand to her face, just as he had in the garden. This time, when his fingers brushed her cheek, the luminescence beneath her skin glowed brighter, spreading like watercolor. "In the old language," he murmured, "we had a word Seralath, for when two beings' energies recognize each other. There's no modern Moralian equivalent." "We have words," Lyra whispered. "Connection, intimacy." She hesitated, then added, "Love." "Love," he repeated, the word new in his mouth. Something shifted between them, a barrier falling away. Lyra stepped closer, her diplomatic training forgotten. Only the moment remained, crystallized in the strange light. "Humans have another way of expressing this," she said softly. "If you want to learn." Understanding dawned in his eyes. Slowly, giving him time to withdraw, she leaned forward. Their lips met, tentative, gentle. A simple touch that carried worlds of meaning. For a moment, Kevin remained still, processing this new sensation. Then hesitantly he returned the kiss, his hand cradling her face with reverent care. When they parted, his skin was pulsing with patterns Lyra had never seen, complex swirls of color that seemed to dance beneath the surface. "That," he said, voice unsteady, "was worth risking everything for." A sudden alarm pierced the quiet of the grove. Lights flashed through the crystal trees as search drones activated. "They've discovered I'm missing," Kevin said, instantly alert. "You must return to your quarters before they find you here." "And you? What will happen when they take you for the protocols?" His expression hardened with newfound resolve. "They won't. The protocols require consent of the royal lineage, a formality as no heir has ever refused. Until now. They'll force you," Lyra argued. "The council won't let their future ruler remain contaminated with human ideas. Then I will no longer be their future ruler." The words hung between them, revolutionary in their simplicity. "My younger sister Neris has always been better suited to leadership. She understands balance, tradition, and progress together." Lyra stared at him, comprehending the magnitude of what he proposed. "You would abdicate? Give up the throne?" "I would choose freedom," he corrected. "Freedom to feel, to learn, to love." He took her hand. "But first we must survive tonight. Take the eastern path back to the city. It's less monitored." As search beams cut through the darkness around them, Kevin pressed something into her palm, a communication crystal more advanced than any she'd seen. "Whatever happens," he said urgently, "be ready." "Tomorrow everything changes." Before she could respond, he kissed her once more, brief but fierce, then melted into the crystal forest, drawing the search drones away from her escape route. Clutching the crystal, Lyra ran, her heart pounding with both fear and a wild, impossible hope. Between two worlds, dawn broke over Luminaris with unusual colors, deep purples and vibrant blues streaking the normally pale sky. Lyra stood at her window, the communication crystal clutched in her palm, watching as citizens gathered in the central plaza below. Something was happening. The crystal had remained silent all night, leaving her to imagine countless scenarios, none of them promising. Her door chimed, then slid open without waiting for permission. Instead of guards, she found Neris, Kivan's younger sister, her royal attire hastily assembled. "Ambassador Chen," she said without preamble, "my brother has refused the ancestral protocols and challenged the High Council's authority." "The city is in chaos," Lyra's heart leapt. "Is he safe for now?" Neris assured her. "But he demands your presence at the convergence chamber. The entire city will witness what happens there." As they hurried through the palace corridors, Neris spoke quietly. "He told me about your lessons together, about what humans understand that we've forgotten." "And what do you think?" Lyra asked carefully. Neris's skin rippled with thoughtful patterns. "I think Moralia has been balanced on the edge of change for generations. Perhaps humans are the catalyst we needed." The convergence chamber was ancient, a vast dome where, tradition held, Moralians had once gathered to make decisions collectively rather than through the council system. Today it was filled to capacity, with citizens watching from adjoining halls via projection fields. Kivan stood in the center, wearing formal attire, but without royal insignia. Around him, the High Council members radiated patterns of alarm and disapproval. When he saw Lyra, his face transformed with a genuine smile, a shocking display of emotion that sent ripples of reaction through the crowd. "Ambassador Chen," he acknowledged formally, then turned to address the gathered Moralians. "Citizens of Moralia, I have called this gathering to speak truths that have been hidden for generations." He gestured toward the ceiling dome, which transformed into a projection of the ancient crystal from the grove. Images of Moralia's emotional past flowed across it. "We were told that we evolved beyond emotion," Kivan continued, his voice carrying to every corner, "that we chose reason over feeling for the greater good. But the truth is that our ancestors feared the power of connection, feared it could disrupt the control of the few over the many." The council members surged forward, but found themselves held back by an invisible barrier, some technology Lyra didn't recognize. "For months I have studied human ways," Kivan said. "Not because they are superior, but because they have preserved what we lost. The capacity to feel deeply, to touch, to connect soul to soul." He extended his hand toward Lyra. After a moment's hesitation, she stepped forward to take it. Where their fingers intertwined, their skin glowed with harmonized patterns visible to everyone. "This phenomenon was once common among our people," Kivan explained to the murmuring crowd. "Our ancestors called it Seraleth, the recognition of kindred spirits across any divide. Even species." Elder Vexar's voice cut through the chamber. "This is blasphemy against all we've built. Humans are primitive, their emotions make them unstable, violent. Yet they've created beauty we cannot imagine," Kivan countered. "Music that makes the soul tremble. Poetry that captures ineffable truth. Love that transcends even death." He turned to face the council directly. "I refuse the ancestral protocols. Moreover, I renounce my claim to the throne." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "My sister Neris has the wisdom to lead Moralia forward," he continued. "I choose instead to be first ambassador to Earth, to build a bridge between our worlds, not just of technology and resources, but of understanding." Thalaris stepped forward. "You would abandon your people for a human?" "No," Kivan replied calmly. "I would show my people another way to be Moralian, one that honors both our advanced civilization and our emotional heritage." He turned back to the citizens. "I ask nothing of you. Each must choose their path. But know this. The capacity for feeling remains within all of us, waiting to be reawakened, to demonstrate." He raised Lyra's hand to his lips and placed a gentle kiss upon it, a human gesture performed by a Moralian prince before his entire society. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some citizens displayed shock, others curiosity. A few, mostly younger Moralians, showed patterns of recognition as if something long dormant had stirred within them. Neris stepped into the center of the chamber. "As heir presumptive, I propose a middle path. Our society need not abandon rationality to reclaim our emotional heritage. Let us learn from humans while remaining Moralian. Let us create something new between our worlds." Hours later, as the twin suns set over a changed Luminaris, Lyra and Kevin stood on the observatory platform overlooking both the city and the stars beyond. "Will they accept your decision?" she asked. "Some will, some won't," he replied. "Change comes slowly, even with revolution. But it has begun." He traced his fingers along her arm, still marveling at the sensation. "Earth will need to adjust to a Moralian ambassador who asks too many questions about human customs." Lyra smiled, leaning into him. "And who learns very quickly." Above them, stars from two different worlds shimmered. Earth, Sun, a distant point of light beside Moralia's twin stars. Between them stretched vast emptiness, yet also connection. In human stories, Lyra said softly, this would be where they say, "and they lived happily ever after." Kevin considered this. An imprecise ending. "Life is not so simple." "No," she agreed. "It's messy and complicated and beautiful." "Like this," he murmured, and pulled her close for another kiss. No longer an experiment or cultural exchange, but a promise between two beings who had found something miraculous between worlds. As they embraced, their silhouettes merged against the backdrop of stars. Not quite human, not quite Moralian, but something new and undefinable. A beginning written in light.